Salutations and welcome, friends, to another episode of Amalfi Sports. I'm your host for today's episode, Matthew DeSantis, and today we are previewing an absolutely huge day of racing on Saturday, July 31 at Saratoga, which includes 3 graded stakes races, the Jim Dandy, the Bowling Green, and the Alfred G Vanderbilt Handicap. Now, before we get started, I want to take a second to thank all of our new subscribers and viewers. We had a lot of great content on Amalfi, and you can find it all on our website at amalfimedia.com. We also are going to be adding a lot of fun new features to Amalfi Sports as we start airing interviews with prominent figures in the sports world and the horse racing industry, from handicappers to announcers to trainers to jockeys and many, many more. And the best way to get all of this content is to subscribe to Amalfi Media. And very shortly, you'll be able to subscribe to the Amalfi Sports podcast feed, so be on the lookout for that on your podcast platform of choice. Now, to stay up to date with all of the daily activity in horse racing, and man alive, is there a lot, make sure to follow me on Twitter at the handle @FailedToMenace. My favorite note from the daily racing forum, @FailedToMenace. Finally, while this video is focused on the big day of races at Saratoga, I also have a couple of other preview videos for the big weekend at Del Mar. And so you can find my preview videos for the Bing Crosby Stakes, as well as the Clement Hirsch Stakes, on the Amalfi Media YouTube channel or on our website at amalfimedia.com. As always, make sure to like and comment with your thoughts about how you think the races are going to break down this weekend, and share with your fellow horse racing fanatics on social media. Okay, let's dive into the big day at the Spa, which is highlighted by those 3 graded stakes races. But of course, there are 11 total races on the card. And if you want to get my picks for all of them, now you can do that. Just check out the website, amalfimedia.com, and you'll find my links to the Saturday picks. And you can get all of my picks and analysis for all 11 races. But let's dive into the graded stakes races, and we'll do these slightly out of order. We'll start with the first, but we're going to hold the Jim Dandy until last. So we'll talk about the Alfred G Vanderbilt first, then the Bowling Green, then the Jim Dandy. So let's start with the Alfred G Vanderbilt Grade 1 stakes race, 6 furlongs. Post time is at 5:03 p.m. Eastern, and this is for 3-year-olds and up, and it is on dirt. So let's take a look at the field for the Alfred G Vanderbilt Stakes. And you have a 9-horse field. I'm not going to go over all 9 in my kind of in-depth preview, but do want to at least give a little bit of service to each one of these. So Lexitonian in the number 1 hole, trained by Jack Sisterson, jockeyed by Jose Lezcano. Then Mischievous Alex, who is the morning line favorite, trained by Safi Joseph Jr. and ridden by Irad Ortiz Jr. Then Forenzi Fire, trained by Kelly Breen, jockeyed by Irad's brother, Jose Ortiz. Strike Power, trained by Steve Asmussen, who's closing in on becoming the winningest trainer of all time, and jockeyed by Tyler Gaffleone. Then the 3 Technique, trained by Jeremiah Englehart and jockeyed by Manny Franco. And then you have last year's Breeder Cup Sprint winner, Whitmore, coming in at the 6th hole, trained by Ronald Moquette and jockeyed by Ricardo Santana Jr. In the 7th hole, Miles Ahead, trained by George Arnold II, and jockeyed by very hot Luis Saez. And then Montauk Traffic, trained by Linda Rice, jockeyed by Eric Cancel. And then finally, coming in at number 9, you have Special Reserve, trained by Mike Maker, who's been having a very nice Saratoga meet, and jockeyed by Joel Rosario. So that is the field for the Alfred G Vanderbilt. And this is a race, like I said, features some of the best sprint horses in the country. It's interesting, the Bing Crosby Stakes, which I also previewed, you can check out on YouTube, has kind of the other great sprint horses. So we have 2 great sprint races taking place in the same day on opposite sides of the country. I think this field is probably a little bit stronger than the Bing Crosby Stakes. Bing Crosby Stakes has a very good horse, CZ Rocket, that I think is very good. Brickyard Ride is another one. So they do have some nice horses out there. I think this is probably a little bit more of a solid and deeper field in terms of the maybe upper crust of this sprint division. So should be a really thrilling run down the home stretch. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go through all 9 of these horses, but I do want to talk about a few of them. And the one horse I want to start with is Whitmore. Whitmore is a horse that is going to get bet down. And it's going to get bet down because it's a sentimental favorite. This is a horse that won last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint Challenge and won with style. I mean, won going away. You don't see horses win sprint races by that margin at that level very regularly. You might see 2 or 3 horses kind of break apart. You rarely see one horse just put away an entire field the way Whitmore did last year at the Breeders' Cup. He posted a huge Beyer speed number of 104. But she pointed out, has not come back to that form yet. Has posted strong speed numbers under Ricardo Santana, 97s, 95s, but has not really regained that same class. Additionally, has lost all 3 of his races this year. Has lost to CZ Rocket in 2 races and has lost to a fellow runner in this race, Lexingtonian, at Churchill Downs last time out at 7 furlongs. Finished 3rd in that race, actually, to Lexingtonian and Flagstaff. So Whitmore is a sentimental favorite. He's 8 years old. Everybody wants to root for the old guy. The fact that he had this amazing Breeders' Cup run last year, I think you're just not going to find value, though. And I think this field is too deep for Whitmore to pull off another, I don't want to say miracle, but another amazing performance. There are just other horses in this field that I think are a lot stronger than Whitmore, and that will present a lot more challenges to him. So just something to keep in mind as you're looking at those odds changing between the morning line odds and what the post-time odds are. Like I said, going off at 4-1 right now, I would not be surprised if that goes down to 7-2 or 3-1 or even 5-2 potentially. I mean, I think this horse is going to take on a lot of money just because people like the horse a great deal. So that's something to keep in mind. I also want to talk a little bit about Strike Power. This is a horse that's likely to set the pace. You might think that horses that set an early pace in sprint races, it's a shorter race, so hey, they have better chance at hanging on. That can be true, although I would say Strike Power just does not have the class to make me think that he's going to be able to hold on and win this race in the way that he would like. The other horses that I really want to spend a little bit of time talking about are the 2 favorites, are Mischievous Alex and Frenzy Fire. We'll start with Mischievous Alex. And here's what I find interesting about both of them, is that the Ortiz brothers have been trading off rides on the 2 of them. They've been swapping. They've been going back and forth. Irad runs Mischievous Alex for a while. Then Jose jumps on him for a mountain at Belmont. Now Irad's back on him. If you look at Frenzy Fire, Irad's ridden him before. Jose's jumped on him a couple times. Irad's ridden him recently. Jose's on him for the Vanderbilt. So it's interesting to see these 2 brothers quite literally jockey for the horse that they want. And these are 2 very, very, very impressive horses. Mischievous Alex has posted the best Beyer speed number in the field at a 109. But you could argue Frenzy Fire has been remarkably consistent over his last several races. 1 second, but otherwise you had 2 other graded stakes victories, a grade 2 win and a grade 3 win. So both are very, very strong horses. I think what's interesting about Mischievous Alex is he's had 2 kind of plus 100 races, but sometimes you'll see him dip down a little bit. I mean, it does seem as if, he's a 4-year-old horse, so it does seem as if the best racing is ahead of him. He's been improving those speed numbers pretty consistently from his 3 to 4-year-old year. You could see the same with Frenzy Fire. I think the difference, though, is Frenzy Fire probably has a higher floor, so to speak. I think Mischievous Alex might have a slightly higher ceiling. So it all depends on the type of rides that they're going to get. And I think that's going to be something I'm going to talk about here in a second. The other horse that I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about was Special Reserve, which is going to be breaking from the far outside, which sometimes can be tricky in sprint races. You just kind of gear the horse inside to save ground, but by saving ground, you probably are not going to be able to set the early speed, or do you try to use up a lot of that early speed to get to the inside rail or kind of the second position going into the turn. So it'll be interesting. The reason I want to talk about Special Reserve, though, is this is a horse. It's 5 years old and has just been consistently improving over the last year. Has just been kind of throwing up high 90s and now plus 100 buyer speed numbers. It's also important to point out this is a horse trained by Michael Maker, who is having a really good Saratoga meet, winning 23% of his races. There's a lot to like there in terms of Special Reserve. I don't know if the kind of qualification I have with Special Reserve has run in a couple grade 3 stakes, but has largely run in allowance claimers and that sort of race. So you've not necessarily seen the level of competition that he's going to see in the Vanderbilt. So how do I see this race breaking down? Well, I mentioned the brothers, Irad Jr. and Jose. And for those of you who've been listening to me for a while, you know I really like Irad Ortiz. And while that is true, Irad has been having a very erratic season at Saratoga. He has been all over the place. There are some days he comes out like a man on fire and wins 3-4 races in a row. And then he goes over on a bunch of favorites. And you just kind of go, what is he doing? I mean, it's just, he has had some baffling rides this year. Jose, on the other hand, has been remarkably consistent. And we've seen a lot of Jose winning and Irad finishing in second. We've seen a lot of those at Saratoga this season. So that's the way I'm going to play it. I think, I'm going to play it a 3-2-9-6, and that means I see Firenze Fire winning. I see Mischievous Alex coming in second. I see Special Reserve, I think, has a lot to offer there, coming in third. And then finally, fourth, I have Whitmore. I know people really love that horse, and understandably so. I just don't know if he's got the speed to maintain what should be a very, very fast field and a very deep field of improving horses. That's the other thing that's important to point out. These horses that he's going up against have gotten better over the last year. So that's the way I see it, with Firenze Fire winning the Alfred G. Vanderbilt Handicap. So let's move on now to the Bowling Green. Let's go to some turf. And this is, post time is going to be 6:13 p.m. Eastern. This is a 1 3/8. This is a grade 2 race for horses 4 years old and up. And this will be run on the inner turf at Saratoga. Now let's take a look at the field for the Bowling Green Stakes. And this is an 8-horse field. And there might be some the channels are going to throw people off. Channel Cat versus Channel Maker. But we start with a one-hole Channel Cat, trained again by Jack Sisterson and jockeyed by John Velasquez. Then Cross Border, trained by the aforementioned Mike Maker, jockeyed by Luis Saez. And then you have a very intriguing horse, Chilean horse, Breakpoint, trained by Chad Brown. Obviously great on turf, jockeyed by Javier Castellano. Rock Emperor, Irish horse, again, trained by Chad Brown, jockeyed by Joel Rosario. Then you have the favorite Channel Maker, trained by Bill Mott, who has 3 horses in this field, jockeyed by Manny Franco. You then the second Bill Mott horse, Red Knight, jockeyed by Tyler Gaffleone. The third Bill Mott horse, Moon Over Miami, jockeyed by Junior Alvarado. And then finally, you have Todd Pletcher's horse, Shamrocket, jockeyed by Irad Ortiz Jr. So that is the field for the Bowling Green Stakes, and it's an interesting one. And it's one that it's really tough to handicap, and I'll tell you why. Because it's all going to depend on the pace. It's not one of these where you can sit down, you can just look at a racing form, and you can kind of, okay, I like this pedigree, I like this, trainer, I like this jockey, I like these buyer speed numbers, I like this projection, those sorts of things. This is one where, by all indications, Channel Cat is going to be sent to the lead early. And Channel Cat can fly. And so that is a problem, potentially, for Channel Maker, who's the favorite. And so Channel Cat has been running like 46-4, 47-2, 46-1 opening half miles. That's blistering. Just to put that in perspective, Channel Maker, who's the favorite, is running 51, 49-2, 51, 50 opening halves. The problem is that Channel Maker actually likes getting on the lead and then slowing the pace down a little bit. Which is, it's what really good horses do, is they get on the lead and then they try to dictate the pace. The problem is if Channel Cat is setting an insane pace, then is Channel Maker, who is jockeyed by Manny Franco and who tends to be a very aggressive jockey, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just he tries to get to the front. Is Channel Maker going to get locked up in a speed duel? And if that happens, then I'm not so sure about Channel Maker. Because I think if you get locked up in a speed duel over 1 3/8, there's enough quality in this field that other horses are going to be coming in. You also have Red Knight, who is going to get blinkers put on for this race, which means you're going to have to expect that Red Knight's going to be sent to the lead early as well. So again, I think if Manny Franco's smart, and I think that, certainly this is, if Bill Mott knows what he's doing as a trainer, I think this is one of those where you say, listen, let's try to sit back in the 3 or 4 position. 3-4 hole, stay on the inside rail. Let's not try to get tied up in the early speed. Let's let those horses come back to us a little bit. I think that'll probably be a smarter trip, but that is something to keep in mind. So if you see Channel Maker going out, chasing that lead, don't be so sure about your bets in that case, because I think there's some other horses there. One of the other horses that is going to be there that I want to talk about is Break Point, which is a Chad Brown trained horse. This horse, I think, offers outstanding value at double-digit odds, 10-1. Chad Brown got off to a very slow start at Saratoga, but has really picked up the pace, is winning, has now won 6 races there, is getting better. And I think Break Point may not be a winner, but offers, like I said, great value in terms of including him in your exotic bets for exactas, trifectas, superfectas. I would even say exactas, because this is a horse that ran a 90 Beyer speed number the first time in the United States. What we typically see from international horses, when they come over to the U.S., they post their worst Beyer speed number. The second race out, there's usually a substantial jump in that number. And so it would not surprise me to see to see Break Point post a plus 100 speed number in this race. And if he does that, then he's right in there with everybody else. And so I like Break Point a lot for that value. I know Rock Emperor is kind of considered the better of the 2 Chad Brown horses, just from kind of a handicapping standpoint, and there is certainly a lot to like there. I'm seeing a little bit more projection from Break Point. So I think that's a horse that's going to surprise some people. And I really like that second time out in the United States. You're going to see a pretty substantial increase. This is also a horse that's just getting trained by Chad Brown for the second time as well. So Chad just took over training him about a month and a half ago. So this is a recent shift, and I think can only benefit the horse. So we will see how that breaks out. As I mentioned, Rock Emperor I have a feeling Rock Emperor is going to take on some more money, and I just think is a step slow against this level of competition. Has gone up against great competition. Recently lost to both Domestic Spending and Trabhuvan and Gufo in the Manhattan. All 3 of those horses are outstanding. You remember Trabhuvan from a couple weeks ago at Monmouth, just dominating the United Nations Stakes. So no disrespect losing to a horse like that. But when Rock Emperor goes up against the best competition in grade 1s and in grade 2 races, doesn't usually come out on top or even necessarily on the board, sometimes on the board, but this year has not, and has really taken a step back in terms of a class occasionally to get that victory. And so I just don't love that horse as much as others might. And I think that horse is probably going to take on a little too much money. The final horse I'll mention is Moon Over Miami. This is a horse I really like, actually. Again, another Bill Mott trained horse. I trust Bill Mott a lot on these surfaces and at Saratoga, who's been having a very good meet. And so Moon Over Miami has been very consistent 97, 97, 96, just really strong buyer speed numbers. Do I like the horse to win? No, but I like the horse to end up on the board and rounding out your trifecta, superfecta, exotic bets. So the way I see the Bowling Green playing out, again, a lot of this does come down to how does that opening pace dictate the outcome of the race. But I have a feeling Channel Maker is going to not get drawn into a speed duel. I think Channel Maker is the best horse in this field. I like Channel Maker to win. A little bit of an upset. I like Breakpoint coming in second. I think just offers really good value. Rock Emperor coming in third. And then I like Moon over Miami finishing out the Supervecta. So I see it as a 5-3-4-7. So that is the Bowling Green. Now let's move to the headline event. Let's move to what everybody's going to be tuning in for, which is the Jim Dandy. And that is post time at 5:39. So again, that's kind of sandwiched between the Alfred Vanderbilt and the Bowling Green. But this is a grade 2 race, 1 1/8 on dirt for 3-year-olds. And that's why I said everybody's going to tune in, because these are the horses, and one in particular, that you saw during the Triple Crown run. And so let's take a look at this very small but very impressive field for the Jim Dandy Stakes. So you have 6 horses coming in at the first post position. Dr. Jack, trained by Todd Pletcher and jockeyed by Jose Ortiz. Masquerade, trained by Albert Stahl and jockeyed by Miguel Mena. And you have a horse, Wayburn, who I have a lot of thoughts about, trained by James Jerkins and jockeyed by Irad Ortiz Jr. Keep Me in Mind, trained by Robertino Diodoro, jockeyed by Joel Rosario. You have the morning line favorite, an overwhelming favorite, Essential Quality, the 2021 Belmont Stakes winner, trained by Brad Cox and jockeyed by Luis Saez. And then finally, you have Risk Taking, trained by Chad Brown and jockeyed by Manny Franco. So I see this as a 4-horse race. And let me preface this by saying a couple weeks ago, the Jim Dandy looked like it was going to be like the Breeders' Cup practically. Because Rombauer was supposed to be there. There was some talk maybe Midnight Bourbon was going to run there. There was talk of a lot of other 3-year-olds potentially being in this field. Amazingly, once Essential Quality made it known that he was going to be in the field, not everybody else wanted to run. And so some of the other horses, and the horses weren't scared, but some of the other trainers might have said, maybe there's a better opportunity to run our horses elsewhere. Essential Quality, just for those of you who don't remember the 2021 Belmont Stakes, go on YouTube and watch that. I watched it a few times in preparing for this, and my gosh, it was Essential Quality good in that race. And just was dominant. I mean, that was as good of a Belmont Stakes run as I've seen in recent years, even taking into account American Pharaoh and Justified winning the Triple Crown. Man alive, was that good. And of course, I also just loved Hot Rod Charlie coming in second in that race. But anyway, Essential Quality is clearly the class of this field. But I don't think it'll be easy. I don't think this is going to be a slam dunk. I think part of it is, I think Essential Quality is a horse that really excels at a longer distance. And 1 1/8 is going to keep things bunched up a little bit more. There's a little concern there. The other thing is, Essential Quality rarely ever gets an inside trip. From what I can tell, and listen, Luis Saez is a very good jockey who is having a very good Saratoga meet. So I'm not questioning Luis Saez. I just think the horse does not like riding on the inside. And so if you ever watch Essential Quality races, he's always outside. He's 3-4 paths from the rail. And that's just the way he runs. Never a ground-saving effort. You can never say that about Essential Quality. Even going back to when he was running earlier in his 3-year-old campaign. Always on the outside. Always swings out super wide coming down the home stretch. And is perfectly fine with that. So this is a horse that doesn't save ground, seems to do better over longer distances. So there is a little concern here. Is 1 1/8 going to be long enough? Does it bring in some of the other horses in the field? Well, let's talk about a couple of them. Horse I want to talk about is Wayburn. The more I watch this horse, the more I really, really, really like this horse. Wayburn is a horse that you rarely see horses like this. And it's going off at 6-1, I think offers really good value. But Wayburn is a horse that seems to take it personal when he is passed on the home stretch. A lot of Wayburn tends to set the pace or be kind of in the second position. So he's often out in front. And then coming down the home stretch, somebody kind of comes charging past Wayburn. And typically, if you watch horse racing, you've seen this 1,000 times. Horse that was leading gets passed down the stretch, fades back, finishes 7-10 lengths behind everybody else. Okay? Not Wayburn. That horse runs out of spite. I swear to God. That horse sees another horse pass him, and he's like, nope, not today. And just kind of charge. I've never seen a horse have an acceleration after he gets passed. It's incredible. If you look at the way he responded when Mandaloon passed him at the Pegasus, if you look at the way he responded when Masquerade passed him at the Ohio Derby, he just is a horse that seems to relish competition. Now, that said, he doesn't usually win, but he doesn't go away. He always sticks right by the side. It's always a length or less, and he's charging late. And it's a really incredible riding style to see a horse that comes out fast early, then gets caught, and then charges again late. It's a fascinating running style. And I think at 1 1/8, he's going to challenge Essential Quality. I think Essential Quality is going to come barreling around thinking he's going to win. And I think Wayburn's going to push him. I think Wayburn's going to take it personal that another horse is passing by. So a lot to like there about Wayburn. The other horse that is going off at very good odds is Masquerade. In terms of very, lower odds, I should say. I actually don't like the odds on this horse at 4-1. Masquerade won a very messy Ohio Derby. Didn't get the best. It was a weird trip. Locked into a little bit of a speed duel like halfway through the race, and was kind of neck and neck with another horse pulling away for a good chunk of the backstretch. And then around the third and fourth turn, kind of ended up winning with Wayburn kind of charging at the last second. And so there was just a lot there. There's just a very odd ride. Maybe you say Masquerade gets a better ride this time around, a little bit of an easier trip, and maybe things break his way. I like the horse. I just don't like him maybe at 4-1. The horse that I think actually offers a little bit of value is Keep Me in Mind. Another horse that's going off at 6-1. So I like those two 6-1 horses quite a bit. Keep Me in Mind is a horse that's run competitively at the Triple Crown races, was right there at a lot of them, and has gone up against top competition and has gone up against better competition than Masquerade. So the way I see this race breaking down, I think you're going to see Wayburn and maybe Masquerade out early. I think you're going to see Essential Quality and Keep Me in Mind charging in late. I think Wayburn's not going to give up. And so I see it as Essential Quality winning, Wayburn finishing second, Keep Me in Mind finishing third, and Masquerade finishing fourth. And that's the way I see it. Pretty chalky, but I just think those four horses are clearly the class of this field. I just think that risk-taking and Dr. Jack just don't quite have what it takes to get there. Chad Brown on turf, I trust. Chad Brown on dirt, I'm a little less confident about. So that's the way I see it. So I play it 5-3, 4-2 for the superfecta. Well, folks, that's all for today. And I hope you enjoyed the preview of these races at Saratoga. And remember to check out my blog for the picks for all of the races on the Saturday card. And also make sure to watch my previews for the Del Mar races. That's right, we got some great stuff out in California, the Bing Crosby Stakes and the Clement Hurst Stakes, out where the surf meets the turf. And I also have corresponding blogs on the website for my picks for both Saturday and Sunday races at Del Mar. Now, finally, just a reminder to subscribe to Amalfi Media on YouTube, follow me on Twitter at the handle @FailedToMenace, and check out our website at amalfimedia.com for all of your great horse racing content that you need to get through the Breeders' Cup and beyond. Until next time, friends, I'm Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great day at the races and reminding you that it's now post time.